Hello and welcome. Today we have Kristin Rath. She is the best-selling author of Meant for More, Create Your Dream Life, Plan Your Path, and Start Living It Now. She is also an entrepreneur who empowers people to live a life they love through tools, strategies, and frameworks that create more fulfillment and joy. New York City. Welcome, Kristin.
Thank you so much.
It's great to have you with us.
Thank you.
What I've been finding is that when I just ask an author to open up, so much comes out. They are so enthusiastic about their books, particularly books that authors have gone to the trouble of putting up on Amazon themselves. And so I would love to just start by tapping some of that excitement and energy. Can you tell us about Meant for More?
I can. You mean sort of like the inception of it?
And what you were hoping to do with it and how that has worked out.
Sure. So I was going through a journey of self-discovery, and it was so transformative to me that I felt the need to share it with others. So I set out to write the book I wish I had when I started on my self-discovery journey.
Right. It's always a good place to start.
Yes, and so I basically committed to writing it because actually before this I had the draft of the novel and I had a draft of a memoir and nothing was happening with that, and I really did want to be a published author. And I committed to the decision that I was going to figure out what I was going to write about. And I really didn't know at first. And I kind of set a date that I would start. And really right after that, I started coming up with the topics. I obviously put effort into it. I brainstormed, and I was just kind of racking my brain and my history for what experience of mine could help someone else. And that's when I came up with, not the title, that came like after I wrote the book, but the topics.
Well, it was published in 2016. So
Yes.
When you started this process of self-discovery and trying to figure out what you were going to write about, how far before then was that? Like what year or how many months?
So when I decided to figure out what book I was going to write, it was the end of July 2016, and then less than 6 months later I published the book.
Fantastic, actually.
Yeah.
See, that's interesting, right? Because the momentum was so... It must have been built up because you were trying the other books and they weren't working, and then all of a sudden you had maybe your aha moment, which your book is about because I've read it. So there are lots of aha moments that come if you read and do the exercises. So that's really cool. I like that.
There definitely was momentum because of the motivation behind it, but it was also due to being very organized at the onset. So I had heard about this guy named Chandler Bolt, and he has the self-publishing school.
Yeah, I know him.
And I wasn't going to them for writing, and that's not really what they're about anyway. It's about organizing your thoughts, getting the structure, and helping you market it afterwards. So it was really integral in the quickness of how I wrote, and then also the final product. It was very organized. I already knew my audience. I already knew what the purpose of the book for me was, what I wanted it to do for my business, or what I wanted to do for the audience. And that helps with the marketing at the end because you've written a book that's really marketable, as opposed to just jumping in, writing the book, and then trying to figure that stuff out later.
Sure.
Well, without derailing the conversation,
Yes.
I just want to pause for a minute on that and ask, what was the audience? What was it that you already knew so clearly?
So I was writing the book sort of for the person who was like myself at the beginning of that self-discovery journey. I wanted to know really what I wanted out of life. I wanted to know what I would allow into my life and what I wouldn't, how I could be fulfilled, what would make me happy, how I could dream up these really amazing things for myself that I wanted to share and create an experience, and then how do I get that? Like what's the steps? What are the actions?
So if you were to draw a profile of who this person in self-discovery is,
Yes.
Is it somebody who's graduating college and looking at the quarter life mid-crisis? Is it somebody who's just had a divorce?
I'm in the midlife here, and I actually got a lot out of that book. So it's interesting that you're asking this question, Diane.
I think it would apply to different specific people, but I was just trying to get a picture. Is it somebody who's just had a divorce, somebody who's just had an illness, somebody who's just gotten fired? I mean, can you just flesh that out so we can have a face?
Absolutely, and all of those things that you touched on, definitely. I think the through line for that is you're at a turning point. You know there's something more, but you don't know what. You want something different, but you don't know how.
Yeah.
So it's just really that support system to help you through that. When it's hazy, when you've lost your path, or you feel ungrounded or disconnected to yourself, and that usually happens when a big life moment is upon you, or you're really trying to make a change in your life, and that gets you clear and focused and motivated to take action.
Well, without you giving away too many secrets, that led to a marketing plan. What were some of the tips for the marketing plan that it led to?
Really understanding the market, the Amazon, because I published through Amazon, so I had to understand the algorithm of Amazon. I had to know what other books were in the self-help genre, and then which category within self-help would it be best in, and also be able to stand out in a way.
Well, that's definitely Chandler Bolt's training, because I know,
Yes.
I mean, I haven't taken it, but I know him, I know what he teaches, and I think it's smart, and then I think it's another approach to publishing. So cool that you were able to get it, because you say the word algorithm and many writers leave the room, but it's cool that you've got it. But I wanted to take a step back, because you did say something about your book being a support system, and what I find interesting about that is that the way and the style in which you wrote the book can be extremely supportive, because one thing that I took away from it is that I liked the language. It was so easy, and you were so honest about your own experience. But what I wanted to note about it is that the support system that you're actually writing about is not just you sharing your story, but it's in helping people ask the right questions, and asking the right questions, getting the right answers, and getting the answers that then self-support, actually. So I just wanted to congratulate you on doing that so well.
Thank you.
Because I don't know if you realized that it was going to be meant for more. Your book was meant for even more than what you intended, I think.
Well, I'm probably the one at the table who hasn't read the book, so I have to ask, what are some of the questions that were the right questions to ask?
That's cool.
Well, you have to ask yourself, you have to get a clear lay of the land. Where are you now? What's not working in your life that you want to see the change? Where are you going? Like, what exactly? And we usually have already asked ourselves these questions, but it's a more of a fuzzy, broad kind of thing. But the more details and the more clarity you can put to that, the better you know where you're going and what you want and what your goals are. Because if you don't have a plan, you're going to end up somewhere else. So at least you have the plan. It can always change, because life is, fun, and it throws you anything that can. But having that plan gives you confidence. It helps you start to live that life now, because you ask yourself, that person who's living that life, you, down the road, what do I know that I need to know? How do I feel? How do I relate to other people? How do I love myself? And then you can start bringing that into your life today. So it's the continual questions that actually get supportive answers. You have to ask the right questions.
Did you find people who said, I'm sorry, I can't picture it, I just don't know what my future self is supposed to look like, I'm stymied here because I don't have a goal, that's my problem, not getting to it, but failing to be able to visualize one?
I have not after they've written, not any of the readers of the book.
That's good.
But definitely when before I wrote the book, I was talking to people. I was hearing what they were saying, and there was a lot of confusion all about what you were just talking about. What you want, what you're going to do, what's in the future. I mean, we don't know, but the first step is to clarify what you want. I mean, really, that's the first thing.
And Kristin, for you, did you prepare for this particular book in any way? Because I know for myself, reading your book, I think was different in that it was as if you were sitting next to me. I would say that's what made it different. But one book that I've read more than once actually is the Jack Canfield, what is it? How to get from where you are to where you want to be, the success principles. So did you have years or time in your life that you dedicated to that type of reading before? Did that influence you at all?
Absolutely. I mean, I was influenced by many mentors and books and, experts in the field, years and years of reading Jack Canfield and the Sedona method and, the Ho'oponopono and, all these different kinds of things. And I kind of took the constructs of what worked from each of those, because there wasn't one that I could get everything I wanted out of, and then that's why I wrote the book, so that I could have all those things that were distilled in the context of my experience and what had worked for me. And to your point about how it was conversational, I think the way it came out that way is I spoke the book.
Oh, interesting.
So it was very conversational, and I wanted it to be, but it also helped me write quickly, because after I had mapped out everything I wanted to write about, that had the outline down to, each A, B, 1, 2, 3, I looked at it, turned on the recorder, and just started speaking.
That's so cool.
And then I went to
That is so cool. I love it, because I think we have a bonus right now. We actually have how to write a book fast and really well, like in a way that touches people, right? Because the best books are those that make you feel like you're getting the authentic author, their voice. And so we got your voice.
Oh,
that's
great.
so cool. I like that.
And I'm curious, did you buy a commercial application? Did you use Google Voice Tool? Did you go to some links? I don't need you to endorse a product. I'm just asking a little more about that experience.
It was, it was on my iPhone. It was the memo recorder, the
Really?
voice memo.
That is so cool.
And the reason
And did you transcribe it after? Because that's what I just discovered that thing, and I love it. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's close.
I didn't transcribe it through a software system, and I'm glad I didn't, because hearing my voice, it gave me that space to see if it resonated, if it was weird or whatever, and then also I would pause and I would enter and
So
fill in the
actually,
spaces.
yes,
I manually typed it out,
Wow.
but that was good because it was processing it into the format that would be best for a book.
I like that.
So
That's almost like the Chandler Bolt, and then mixing it in with Book in a Box, because I don't know if you know him, but that's one of the things they do. They interview people over the phone and have them talk about their experiences, and because they're not necessarily authors to begin with, so they just talk. And I tell people all the time, if you can't free write, talk, and then take stuff from it.
It beats sitting in front of the blank page.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much easier to just start talking, and it's not like it was brilliant, all that I said right off the bat.
I enjoyed a lot of what you
Well, I mean, when you
wrote the first draft. Oh,
yeah.
so
when I spoke it
yeah.
into the recorder,
Yeah.
it was not brilliant.
Yeah.
It was just getting me. It was a way to get me to start writing and to start. At least I had something already. By the time I sat at my computer, I had something to go on, which was really, it helped motivate me and keep me going. And I wrote it in about 2.5 weeks, the first.
It's amazing.
draft.
I love it. I want to try this. I think I just want to come up with one project. I don't know what it's going to be, just to put it through the paces and see how this works out. Because I think it'd be fun. It'd be fun to try something new.
I think it's the leading edge of writing. In the history of writing, we're going to find authors somehow transition. There's going to be a tipping point into where they're all speaking.
I've heard of it. I mean, I've heard of writers that do, and they do phenomenally well. They're publishing 4 books a year minimum, which is because we can talk faster than we can write.
And for the genre that I was, or the topic, it just made sense. I mean, if I was writing a fiction dramatic novel, I don't know, then I would.
I've actually heard of a fiction writer who does it, and the thing is, he has like physical problems, and so for him it's easier. But it's amazing. He gave an example of how he had to do it, and it was like you have to like describe something and add in the comma and the period and the semicolon and the whole. And he's like, he did a great job. Like he did it effortlessly, and I was like, wow, that is really amazing when people can get to that level. But anyway, let's switch focus a little bit, because I think that your book is actually the springboard for a lot of the things that are very important to you, and that is helping other people to live not only a fulfilled life, but a healthy life, because you describe yourself as a real foodie, which I think is awesome. I love that. Tell us a little bit more about your greater mission, because I think that's what this book is about. It's just the beginning of a greater mission.
I get really excited when I think that I can help people live a life they love. And that's very broad, I understand that. But it makes me excited. And it also gives me that freedom to do it in different ways. And the freedom for the person that I'm speaking to make it work for them. I don't tell anybody how to live or what to do. It's more of asking them the right questions and kind of prompting people. We have so much wisdom within ourselves. And I mean, obviously we have things that we can learn. But we have a lot of knowledge inside, and it's just kind of asking the right questions to reconnect to that. And I just really want people to be able to feel empowered to live their best life, to be their best self.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I think what people need that when you can work with them one-on-one, if that's what you do, is just give them the space and the time in which to do it. Because I know for me, I'm struggling to just have time that's not taken up by something else. And so you're right, we all have this inner wisdom, but we just need the time to sit with it and actually try and dig into it, right? And so it sounds to me like that's one of the things you do. You help people connect or reconnect with the stuff that they have.
And to dispel some of the ideas that this has to take a big chunk of your time every day, or you need to go out into the wilderness to reconnect to yourself. You can do it every day with the life you have. It's more of just, if you change your thinking around your life, then you're changing the way you feel, which changes the way you act. And then that affects how you show up in the world, which changes what you're getting back.
Exactly.
So it's really getting to the way that you talk to yourself. We talk to ourselves in such a terrible way sometimes. It's not supportive, it puts us down, it holds us back. And it's just kind of helping people realize that they have more control over their life than they knew.
Right.
And that you have more power. You have the choice to not to control people. I mean, we know that. Can't change people or control them, and you can't stop things from happening to you. But you can control how you think and how you act.
Right.
And that is a lot.
Right.
Well, I'm tempted to go backwards yet again.
Okay.
And we can switch back to this point in time and talk more about the happy stuff. But I'm curious how you felt when you were in your self-discovery. Were you sort of in the depths of despair? Were you bumping up against walls? Were you finding things limiting in a particular way that we could all relate to, deep depression or loss of a job or a relationship? Was that kind of thing going on for you?
I had, it was an end of a relationship. It was a divorce. And it was, I really had to take stock and to make it, to really kind of understand where I was and what I wanted and where I was going to go. Because
it's funny you said divorce, because I had earlier said divorce. It was just kind of a wild guess. Maybe on some level I connected, but I do think it's a particularly relevant thing. There are a lot of everyone at this table.
We're all three of us at
It's a very obvious connection to me that immediately after a divorce, everyone has a moment of imbalance, and maybe sometimes longer than a moment. And there are a lot of ways that people move forward or don't move forward from that moment that I'm personally seeing. So I don't mean to inject words into your mouth, but that made perfect sense to me. What were some of the experiences you had with readers or people who responded to this book?
I've had people say that it just felt like I was speaking to them. It doesn't have to. I haven't necessarily had people tell me where they were in their life when they read this book. I know some people were trying to find a job that they loved and they were unfulfilled in their career. Some people who were making a big change, they were moving or changing careers, or again, it's something with relationship. Interestingly, I've had more men than I expected give me feedback about how things resonated with them, how.
That was probably after they saw you in person, right?
No, that's not cool. She's got wisdom there. Come on.
I didn't mean to put
She's
down.
the full package.
I wasn't trying to condemn men. I just think that they tend to be very visual, and sometimes they respond to what they say.
There's a lot of visualization tips in here.
Besides her headshot photo. Yes.
Right.
Yes. No, I don't know.
So men.
I think. Wait a minute. Let's just wait while we're on the subject. Let's give men a little more credit and remember, because I've done a lot of homework post divorce, and my understanding is that men are just as emotional as women, and they go through a lot of the same challenges. So to be fair, it's quite possible. Yeah, there are plenty of men that want to get in touch, and seeing a book like this, the cover actually is not pink. So if we look at it, it's got a mountain. I could see even just by the cover that male or female may be drawn to this book.
And I did ask people in my network to vote on a cover, and I had men and women, and this was the one that it's kind of like a neutral.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. So anyway, I just don't want to bash on our male listeners. We love you too, and we understand that you probably have a lot of the same struggles. And Diane, of course, is just always pushing us up against
Everything. I'm just
that's what she does, and she's awesome at it.
Tell me about what some of these reactions were. What were some of the things that they said to you, both men and women?
The most common thing was the tone, the conversational style. I don't know why that kept coming up for people. Maybe they weren't used to it, but there's some pretty heavy stuff that I talk about, but I break it down into very digestible and easy to understand concepts, and it's real. It's kind of just like, here's the thing, your thinking about something is causing your suffering. I mean, boom.
That's important. That's it right there. Let's unpackage that. You know, that's the truth.
I mean, just stuff like that where it's just like, let's not mince words here. Let's be real. And I'm going to support you here, but I'm not going to baby you. So maybe it was the tone of like a friend, you know, that's what I wanted to have happen, was to make it sound like a friend was talking to you. Someone who knows you, who's going to give you tough love, who's going to call you on your stuff, you know, but is always there for you, who's got your back, who maybe knows just a tiny bit more than you because they've lived something, and then it can help you get through it.
Well, I imagine some people would reject that statement right away and would say it's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about something that is concrete and has happened. And it would be challenging to get people who are thinking about something that really happened to agree that, well, these thoughts can just be stashed and, you know, blown away into the ether.
Well, yeah, but there is no blowing away. That's the thing. It's a multi-step process in which I think you have to dismantle those ideas that we've come to accept about whatever it is we're suffering about. I mean, that's the way. And obviously, because you didn't read the book, Diane, I understand you're coming from a different perspective.
I appreciate that, because it gives me a chance to explain for people who haven't read the book and have that same thought. I am certainly not discounting anything that has happened to anyone. And I'm not saying to think that it didn't happen, because, you know, I'm not having magical thinking where it's like, it doesn't exist, didn't happen, it was actually a grand old time.
Yeah.
That's not it. It's kind of like this. When you have two people that experience the exact same event, you have one person who processes it as a way to fuel them, to motivate them, to grow and change. And you have another person who processes that as a way to tell themselves that they're not good enough, or they're not worthy, or they're bad, or things don't work out for them. They can have completely different endings to that.
Yeah.
So it's not that it changed the circumstances, but it changed the way you thought about it. And here's the thing. Why make yourself miserable? I know I do it too. I give myself pity parties, but I literally now give myself 5 minutes. I'm like, Kristin, you have 5 minutes to be pouty about this, and then let's move on. And it's great. I get it out and I move on. You know?
That's cool. Well, yeah, it's because you can't discount human emotion. Human emotions are complex and they're varied and they're going to happen. You can't stop them from
You
happening.
kind of have to deal with them. And it's not easy. It's not like you want to. It's not like I love, you know, when I was doing this, it kind of felt like an archaeological dig. Like I was digging around in my stuff, in my baggage, pulling out, you know, brushing it off. What's this? Does it serve me anymore? Do I want it? Oh, I didn't know I had this limiting belief. You know, do I actually want to do something about it now? So it wasn't changing anything about my past, but I had to process it. I had to understand, oh, this is why I feel this way about money, or this is the reason that I haven't gotten to where I wanted to be in a relationship. So it does inform you. And then you have that ability, that choice, and that power to do something that's supportive with it.
Does it take a long time, or how much time does it take in a range from, you know?
I think I really don't think I could answer that, because it's different for everyone. Mm-hmm. It's really a unique personal journey, and I don't know that you can plan a block of time. It's just, you just start start digging.
I agree. You don't know what you're going to find,
Yeah.
right? Because some limiting beliefs are harder to get rid of than
And
others.
sometimes it's like an onion, you start peeling and things are great, and then you realize, oh, I'm bumping up against something again, something different, something deeper, and then you know, it's not like you ba-bam, like get it all at one shot. That would you'd probably be very raw. You'd probably be very like shell-shocked. But it's really just how I was dedicated to it. Like I really wanted to, and I went full force, and so I spent a lot of time and effort into it. But I had done things over the years before that, so I can't really quantify the time it takes. I think it's a lifetime, really. I don't think I'm ever going to be done.
Well, something else will come up, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think if I had to summarize as a reader what it did is, when I read it, it was post-divorce. So for me, it was a reckoning of what was my role in the failure of a marriage, because I'm also a responsible party, right?
Right.
And I'm still working through the book, actually, because it does take time. It takes longer than you think.
Mm-hmm.
Great questions, but it takes time to just dig through that. But
And what are some of the hardest things for people?
that's definitely, I think taking ownership is one of the hardest.
Yeah.
You know, for sure. Because I definitely, aside from beliefs, it was understanding what are the things that I could do better as a person. Because it makes you feel better, obviously, when you can improve in that way.
Or that are supporting what you want to get out of life, what you see there for yourself. We all make choices, and those choices lead us in a direction. I'm not saying that we ask for what we get in that way, but we do choose the life that we're living in a way by the way that we think and act and show up. It's just, and it is hard. It is very hard sometimes. But once you start doing it, it feels good. You're like, yes, I took part in it, because that ownership also gives you control back.
Sure.
Because you can do something about it. You want to change? All right, let's do it. Let's start. Other people are playing with you here. There's other people that you interact with. You're not in a bubble, but at least you're doing what you can to set the ball rolling in the direction that you want.
Okay, I agree. So you ready to move on, Diane?
Yeah.
Have I convinced you anymore, Diane?
Absolutely.
You want to read the book, Diane?
Well, it
I think we're all
wasn't even
meant for more.
that you didn't even have a hard job to persuade me, because I have felt the truth of some of these things just in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly know that there are times when I'm listening to my thoughts and I'm able to say, what? Are you going to go down that road again? Just change the channel, honey.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have verified by my experience what you're talking about in a lot of ways. But I do think it's important to have a whole package with support and steps laid out.
Yes. There is a section in the back that after you go through all this, it's your support system. So it's how to deal with people. Because, we live people in our lives, and, we're all, we might feel happy about our dreams and want to start sharing it. And it's like, wait, you have to know that they're, people who haven't been on the journey that you've just had. So those kind of things. And then also helping you with like morning rituals or just a routine that helps, and just tools and tips that kind of.
Yeah, and I think I know you're also developing an app to manage stress.
I am.
So I imagine that this whole process was stressful on some level. And I think it's actually a great idea that after people read your book and go through the system, that you actually then go ahead and help them deal with the stress of trying to deal with people who haven't, as you said, gone on the journey. So tell us more about this app development idea that you have.
So it kind of is a complement to the book, like you said. I actually, right just before I forget, I do have on my website a free gift for people where it's a stress less guide, 4 steps to take back control of your life. So if people are interested in that, go to the website.
What's the website? Well, now that you're saying
it is KristinRath.com.
So that's KristinW.
No.
See, I'm thinking Rath. The Wrath of Kristin. No, that's not what I meant.
It's like Rath, but without the anger.
You know what?
I read OW.
You know what it is? I was interviewed on the phone yesterday, and I had to talk about the second title of my book, and I had to spell it, and it had the word wrath in it. So I must be replaying yesterday.
Okay.
So I apologize. Kristin, you give them the URL.
It's www.KRISTINRAT as in Tom, H as in Harry, Rath.com.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So go ahead. Tell us about the app.
So it is also in the tone of the book. It would be a very, very familiar language if someone had read the book and then was going to be using the app. It's very encouraging and supportive, and it prompts you to kind of, it goes past like a mindfulness sort of thing and meditation that is great for that moment, but then it's also helping you past that because you're actually dealing with the cause of your stress.
All right, give us an example of how you think this might work. That way it's right
Okay,
words.
so you have a fight with your significant other, and usually how that goes is we think we know what's in their head, and we start having all these stories that we have constructed that are really fun and dramatic, but they're not always helpful. So you might pull out the app and it asks you a series of questions. I actually don't want to go through the whole thing because it hasn't been built yet. I don't want to give everyone my secrets.
Sure.
But it basically will just help you recenter yourself, getting yourself to ask the right questions, to drop the drama, and to kind of like really look at what's going on, and help you in that way. That as if you kind of called up a friend. It's like, okay, what's going on?
So it's almost like you're venting to in a way that's constructive, right? It sounds like maybe.
I don't know about venting, but it's sort of it's for people who actually want to get to the root of the problem, as opposed to just distracting yourself, which is valid. If you want to do that, it's fine. I mean, sometimes it's really fun to go to YouTube and look at funny furry animals. But if you actually want to move through that, this would be something to help you with that.
Okay, I like it. And when do you have any idea when you think it might be available?
I do not. I have the prototype. I'm just gonna build it.
All right,
start building it.
Well,
I'm gonna have a Kickstarter campaign that happens, so I'll let you know.
Okay, that sounds great. Definitely let us know. So how about real foodie stuff? Let's talk about that.
Okay.
That sounds like fun.
I started that. I started a blog called Words Are Food, and it was nutrition for body and mind. So at the beginning of that, there were a lot of things about food. I was very into holistic nutrition. I had a holistic health guide who had kind of retrained me how to eat in a way that nourished my body. I stopped being afraid of fat. I embrace the fat now.
Well, what year? Tell us when you started, by the way. What year was that, more or less? Was that long before the book?
It was probably 2007.
Yeah, a while before. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And in 2009 or 10, I started the blog, and again, it was kind of that way of wanting it to be really easy for people, like make it simple. I'm a big fan of, especially when you're cooking for one or two, I just made a huge amount of a one thing and then reinvent it so many different ways. And if you plan a little bit, it gets easy to eat in a way that nourishes you. And the importance of it, because that actually preceded my journey in self-discovery. So it was really, I think, set the foundation correctly, because when you're taking care of yourself, when you're nourishing yourself with food, that can change how you feel and how you show up in life and how you deal with stress, because you're balanced and your body has what it needs. And then your mind has that freedom to kind of do its magic.
Right. I like that a lot. That's really great. And I love the way you describe it. Real foodie. So what's your, I have to ask.
What?
What's your not good for you, nutritious, delicious thing, if there's anything?
Not good for me, nutritious.
Because I'm a cake, cookies, and pie, oh my kind of girl, But,
I mean, what do I enjoy that's not part of the real food?
Yeah, if we're talking, if it's real food, I guess, if they put eggs and stuff in it.
Yeah.
Do you like anything that would be considered I'm having a moment and I'm just going to have that?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, what is it?
Sure.
I'm just curious.
I mean, my tastes have changed, so things that come out of like Doritos are not that interesting to me anymore. It just tastes weird to me.
Yeah.
So that kind of eliminated a lot of those.
I tell my children that's chemicals, so that they look around and go, no, that's chemicals. So they walk down the grocery aisle like chemicals and sugar, chemicals and sugar, and then so we're somewhere in the middle there.
Red number 4. I think. Okay. Okay, so my idea of heaven, if we're food heaven, would be to have a really great burger that has a lot of stuff on it, like cheese, onions, and, just stuff. I can negotiate what is on the burger.
Okay.
And some Belgian fries.
Oh, yes.
With like a whole bunch of different aiolis.
Oh, yes.
Different flavors.
Yes.
And then like a Magnolia Bakery cupcake. So
okay, I like it.
But I'm more particular about when I am going to go off the wagon kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm particular about it because it better taste good.
Yeah,
I agree. Have a good experience.
I'm not having a Twinkie, okay? Although I think Twinkies are pretty tasty, and I haven't had one in, I don't know, 20 years.
I say if you want the Twinkie, have the Twinkie and then get on with it.
Yeah. I like it a lot.
Just don't do it all the time if you want to,
Okay, so now let's just, any questions from you, Diane, on the foodie business?
Are we hungry now?
Are we hungry now? I'm definitely going to have
I just don't want to get sued by Doritos.
Okay. No, Doritos
No,
alone.
did I say something wrong about
I'm the one who said chemicals. I'm sorry, Doritos. Whoever owns Doritos, I apologize.
Well, I think what we took away from it was that if you're going to do something that you don't think you should be doing, like eating a product that you think maybe you shouldn't be eating, the point is that if you're going to do it, you should enjoy it.
Yes.
Well, it's a change of thinking around it. Firstly, I would say not to use the language that, I shouldn't have it. It's that this isn't going to nourish me as much as this other thing would. But you know what? I choose to have that. So let's have it, let's enjoy it, and then let's, have the nourishing thing later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when we start putting those labels of bad, it really, when something's bad, it just makes us feel bad. And then we're feeling bad about ourselves, and then we're blah, blah, blah,
then
blah,
you
blah,
have
blah.
a chain reaction that you don't need. Okay, so tell us what's next for you. I mean, what are you working on? Or do you have any follow-up books, or what do you think?
There will be follow-up books, but no, that's not it. It's not. I don't have anything to talk about right now about that.
Okay.
I am going to be creating an online workshop.
Great.
On finding your purpose and also navigating stress and other topics like just to really help you find fulfillment and joy in life. So there will be an online workshop coming this summer.
Wonderful. I like that.
In this whole field of exploring happiness and being, I don't know how to describe this field except sort of the happiness field. But you know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm talking
I want
about,
to
right?
stroll through the
Mind, body,
happiness
wellness?
Mind, body, wellness.
Okay.
Mind, body, wellness. There we go. I think it's definitely all connected. You're doing a great job in linking all of those, I think. It sounds to me like that's the goal for you, and it's great that you're living it, which is really important. So you're showing up authentically with that mission, which is great.
I think what I wanted to get to was, since there is a genre, what makes you different? How do you stand out? What's your brand that separates you from any of the others that might come to the attention of a potential reader?
It's a very good question. So firstly, it would be because it's me. And I'm bringing my personality.
All of us get to be
right? We all get to be,
cool.
we're all so different. So in that way, off the bat, it's unique. What I'm really trying to do is help people in a way that is manageable for them, that you can do in your day right now, starting now, and a plan of action. I'm very much about the action, because if you don't have action, it's just a nice thought. And that doesn't get you anywhere. You can be a dreamer, you also have to be a doer. And that's really important. I had struggled so much with the way that I thought about my life and myself, and I know how powerfully that changed when I changed my thinking. It changed my life. And the late Wayne Dyer has a book of that title, Thoughts Change Your Life. And it's absolutely true. And I didn't know you could do it, weirdly. Before I really delved into it, I really didn't understand how powerful it was. So I'm very much in changing the language that you use with yourself, that you speak, because as you would think, or as you would agree, words matter, and words have power, and you cannot take them back. And when you keep telling yourself, you're not good enough, you can't do this, the world's against me, nobody understands me, I'm alone, you're gonna start presenting that way, because you can't help it not, you can't help not to.
So you're able to, I think her selling point is that she's able to communicate that in a way that, I get your passion for it, and I think your real desire to do that. It sounds to me like, when I sit across from you, and I'm lucky enough to do that quite often, but I definitely walk away feeling like, yes, you are someone who encourages other people. And I'm not saying that other authors do not. I mean, I'm sure quite a few of them. I mean, Tony Robbins has written quite a bit. I know there's a book out now called Willpower is Not Enough. I think it's written by Ben Hardy. I apologize if I got it wrong. But he writes some really great stuff. So I think that each of us shows up the way that we know how to show up, and the right people will kind of come to us, I think.
And there are people who are experts in the niche topics of mind, body, wellness. I'm not trying to go there. I'm kind of the starting point where they're like ground zero. And it's where it's about you. And then you can go and take that course or this framework or follow these steps. But you would have to have this first, because it really is about you and your thinking and knowing yourself very intimately. If you don't know yourself, who's going to? So we should really take that time to know ourselves, invest in ourselves. If we were to start a business, we would certainly be putting in a lot of time and effort in researching the industry and what resources you need and what's your plan for 5 years, 10 years. What is your purpose for being? And we don't do that with our own lives. So how do we expect it to be successful, and how do we, I just think that it's really important. But then you're free to put any other layers on top of it with whatever works for you.
Right, you might want to then go mountain climbing, or you might want to then become an expert in a certain kind of cooking, or you might want to take any other.
Right, make it work for you.
Well, I think the way you said it, the whole archaeological dig thing, I think that makes a lot of sense, that you can be the source for getting it all uncovered, and then you know what you're working with, and then you'll know what you really need afterwards. That makes a lot of sense. I like that.
How's the reaction to the book been going?
Great. I mean, I get a lot of people that I know have read it. When they find out that I've written a book, they're like, oh, I'm gonna go see this book. And then I hear, oh, I got your book, and it really resonated with me. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is a little awkward.
I'll tell you what surprised me. The writing was not that look, I knew the writing was probably going to be fine. I mean, I met you at a literary event, 2 literary events actually. I've met Kristin twice in my life. And no, what I mean to say is for the first time, because we apparently
that was forgettable the first time.
No, I met Kristin. No, this is funny. So I met Kristin in probably 2014, 15 at a IWWG, is that right?
Yes,
and that's the
International Women's Writing Guild. Yes,
right.
I used to work with them.
Exactly. So I met her there the first time, and it's just that I had very little children. So it was when I was going into the literary world and stepping right back out of it. So I don't think I was able to nurture any relationships.
No, I know. I was on the admin side of the table.
And you were on the admin side of the table. And then fast forward to 2017, and I go to the Penn Parentis Literary Salon, and then I'm divorced and I have half of my life back. And I meet Kristin again, and Kristin's like, I know you. And I'm like, really? From where? And it was amazing. That was our first meeting. And this time what was great is that our energy, it was like, poof, I just loved it.
It was the right time for us to meet again.
It was the right time for us to meet again, because then our friendship has started to bloom since. And I really, I'm privileged and honored to have met you again.
The feeling is mutual.
And now we get to bring Diane along, because she comes in.
I come in very, very ready to join. And also the thing that makes me happiest is that I can share this with the listeners of the podcast.
Yes.
Because we kind of curate who we want to give the...
I feel very honored.
Well, I wasn't trying to get you to...
No, I do.
The Lifelines Books Podcast honor. It has been bestowed upon you. Okay, so let's wrap up. We're going to ask you, Kristin, where would you like our listeners to learn more about you, your projects, your app, your workshops, all these wonderful things?
You can go to my website. It's www.kristinrath.com. I'm also on social media, Instagram, Twitter. My handle is Words Are Food. And the book is on Amazon. Just pop the title in there.
And again, the title is Meant for More.
And for those of you watching us, here's the beautiful cover. Meant for More, create your dream life, plan your path, and start living it now. Lifelines, the Books Podcast, has been brought to you by the Brooklyn Writers Project. Music for this podcast has been provided by Anthony Nuda of Noble Sense Productions.